Gee, your shirt. That's a nice shirt.
Thank you. Summer collection. A lot of the work we do is we act as that advisor, and it's not our story, but we're there to see clearly and help you see clearly. So this book, even the rhythm of the book, is intended to reestablish a new relationship, a healthier relationship with work itself. Just don't get that on camera.
Yeah.
The core focus for Whatislife.blog, the podcast series, is to connect intricate moments of humanity, which thus exposes the beauty of us. We believe that all humans contain a story, and that alone is worth sharing.
Welcome back to Whatislife.blog, the podcast series. I am your host, Charles Horace, and today's guest is Jonathan David Lewis. Jonathan, how are you feeling today?
I'm pretty good. I'm a little warm right now. It was a hot walk into the building.
Yes. We do have a little bit of AC, but
Yeah.
It's a little bit warm here, right?
Right.
Okay. So you are the owner and president of McKee Wallwork. What is that?
Yeah, we're a brand strategy firm. Been in business about 30 years. So we work with leadership teams and CEOs who usually are going through big transitional moments and help them remember who they are. And you'd be surprised how much that helps them figure out what to do next.
Okay, right on. We're here to discuss your book, The Rebuilders.
Yeah.
Which is right here presented in front of us. Beautiful cover, by the way. I absolutely love the texture.
Thank you.
Love the font and everything. I love the imagery, love the symbols. What was the design? What's the background information behind the design of the texture?
Yeah, absolutely. So the audiobook is about to be released on Amazon, but this is of such a quality that we actually couldn't sell it through Amazon. So you can only buy it on our website right now, McKeeWallwork.com. But the whole idea behind the Rebuilders and the physicality of it is sort of a return to an old aesthetic and to remind us sort of the joining of our mind and our body in becoming the leaders we need to become. So we intended for it to really feel old and feel like one of those old books that might be on the shelf that's dusty, that was printed 150 years ago.
Yeah.
So it's high quality and it's really a daily reader. So most people are reading through it. It's a great airplane read, but it's intended to be a one daily challenge or thought that orients you in the morning. And so it's a daily reader, and there's 24 weeks, 6 months of work weeks, and it's meant for leaders to kind of prepare themselves to lead through what is turning out to be a very unexpected, wild world that we're living in right now.
Yeah. I personally, I just love the soft texture of it. It's like almost like a cross between like a firm book cover and a blanket almost. It's just, I like it. I enjoy it. I'm interested and intrigued because you said it's like an airplane book read.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna have to disagree on that. Because, well, for me, it's a challenge. It's a challenge. Like it's almost like a mirror, a reflection that looks back at you. And
well, it's interesting that you picked up on that. So we thought of the book as the main character is really the reader.
Okay.
And so as you read through it, it really is intended to be a mirror and to challenge you. So it's less obviously it's nothing about us. We're not talking about ourselves. We're not talking about case studies. Really, the content of the book is whatever business challenge, whatever leadership challenge you're dealing with right now.
Mm-hmm.
And so as you read it, it so far has elicited that sort of response. That's a deep insight, though. That's interesting that you picked up on that right away.
Well, I will say I do have a bachelor's in English,
Yeah.
So I do like to read and write.
Yeah, there you go.
But yeah, no, it was tough for me because it was like it tackled everything that I was going through and how I view, going forward with my own business model and how I look at leadership and my role, whether in my community, whether during my time as an educator, as a teacher, whether just any leadership role that I found myself in. I found each page tackling those issues, tackling it. Going back to what you mentioned in the beginning of the book, where you said "Crack in the Wall" by Leonard Cohen, it's like you didn't shy away from that crack. You know, you didn't gloss over. You didn't just say there's an issue, but we're gonna get back to that. No, you made sure that there was an issue on each page, and it was like, oh my gosh, it's a lot of heaviness almost, but it's purposeful, I would assume, right?
Yeah, that's also feedback we've received. Is like, hey, lighten up. Like, hey, things are all right. Things are going to be fine. And I actually totally agree. And so that Leonard Cohen quote is one of my favorites. It's a line from one of his songs where he said, "There's a crack in everything, and that's how the light gets in."
Mm,
So you will not get to the light if you don't face the crack.
yeah.
And that's what we're exceptionally good at, is helping usually leaders as they're going through big transitional moments in their businesses that might be high growth, having to grow up, mature systems processes, or stalled growth where you start to lose your swagger and feel bad about yourself, or
Yeah.
leadership succession. Those are hard. When you're living through them as a leader, those are actually very personal and they're very hard. And if you're not facing the difficult lessons that those moments are teaching you,
Yeah.
or showing to you,
Yeah.
then you're not going to get to the light, which is on the other side. So the book absolutely is intended to challenge the reader. And that's not, that's something I've lived myself. I have faced many of my own shortcomings, buying the firm from the founders years ago, managing ups and downs in my own company, and of course, advising many others. So this isn't coming from a place of postulation or theorizing. I mean, this is really hard-earned lessons that I've lived and that our company has lived, and that we use that experience to help others through their own hardship.
You used Leonard Cohen. What's the name of the song? Is it called "Crack in the Wall"?
No, I do not recall the name.
Okay, I did listen to it a while back, and I forgot the name of the song too. But yeah, it's when was it written, or when was it?
Man, he's one of my favorite artists. So Hallelujah he originally wrote that, and he really was birthed out of sort of the '60s moment in our country. But he brought a level of maturity and depth and exploration that only some of the artists through that time period brought. And man, his lyrics are almost prophetic to our own time, and some of them are endlessly deep, like a great poet.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
and you've mentioned you like to write poetry too, right?
I write music.
Okay,
I write songs, and poetry might be a term a little too dignified for the songs I write. But yes, I'm a storyteller at heart. So I love writing stories. I love telling stories. I love writing songs that tell stories. I see the world through the frame of story, and I really think that's part of the reason this book was written. So many of the stories in our world today are broken or breaking. So one in particular is the story of work itself. We just finished this huge national study, 3,000 participants, studying the current modern workforce. And what we learned is that the old story of work, the thing that many of us grew up with, which is, if you're loyal, they'll be loyal to you. You're trying to build a career, not a job. Retirement's the point. So when do you want to retire, and how much do you want to make? Or if you go to college, you make 1% more over your career. These stories, they're not shared anymore. There's not a majority of the workforce that even agrees with these stories anymore. So the many stories of our time, including the post-World War II myth of America, of Nazis bad guys, Americans good guys. Let's not talk about the Russians or the Soviet Union at the time. All these myths and stories are breaking right now and fragmenting. And so in work itself, there's this moment for leaders to recognize that the story of work is fragmented, that many of our employees have different stories of work. And I think there's a responsibility for us to rebuild the story of work ourselves. Yeah, so a lot of the work we do as a brand strategy firm is help other organizations, other companies, other leaders remember who they are and then tell their story. And you'd be surprised how many organizations are letting other people tell their story for them.
Yeah.
And that applies at almost every level.
Why do you think that is?
It's hard to know your story, especially if things have changed a bit in your community, in your career, in the environment around your business. It's hard to see yourself. That's why, mentors are vital to the growth of a young leader.
Yeah.
And a young person growing up into an adulthood. You need people around you to see you and help you know who you are and know your own and find your own story. So that's a lot of the work we do is we act as that advisor, and it's not our story, but we're there to see clearly and help you see clearly. Man, but when an organization finds their story, when a leader finds their story and can move forward in it and toward whatever goal and quest they're living, it unleashes them.
And I'm assuming it trickles down to like throughout the company, right? Into every space and department and workers that are part of the company, correct?
Yeah, I mean, if you don't, humans require stories. So if you're not telling your story, people will fill it in with their own.
Ah.
And every culture, every people, every tribe, every company has a story. And so the center of your culture is built on story. So of course, if you're not intentional with it, or if you don't even know what it is today, and you're not telling that story, cascading it out to the edges, you're asking for trouble because people will fill in the blanks.
That's interesting. Interesting. It makes me think of like how like people make like biographies of people, like both in literature, that also in film and media. Do you think that story narrative could get lost as well? Or is it up to the person that actually lived that to hold on to that truth?
Interesting question. I would say absolutely stories are meant to be lived. And if you're a young person, you don't quite know what your story is yet.
Yeah.
So you have to live a little bit to even discover yourself and what story you're living. But once you get to a certain age, once you mature, you should be getting clear on your story and where you fit in a bigger story.
Yeah.
And so in terms of autobiographies, that's an interesting topic. Biographies or autobiographies are, if somebody else is telling your story,
Yeah.
they get to frame everything. And, there's a reason there's hundreds or thousands of biographies on certain figures, because there's hundreds of ways you can frame their story. So if you're not telling your own, you're kind of relying on a lot of other people to guess. And
Yeah. That makes sense. I bring that up because there's a new film. I forgot what it's called, but it's like a biography of Rocky, of like Sylvester Stallone as the actor Sylvester Stallone as he's making the movie Rocky. And it's just
that's very meta.
Exactly, yeah. But that's just what came to mind as you're talking about stories and narratives.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's kind of what is Life.blog is all about, is sharing stories, expanding the narrative, and giving people the opportunity to share their story through podcasts and through video and through social media networking. So that's what is Life is all about. Impact of leadership. Cracking everything is so pivotal. What makes me think of that is that quote from Henry IV, uneasy lies the head that wears a crown, right? Leadership is not always, sunshine and rainbows. I mean, I'm assuming there are moments where it is sunshine and rainbows, and you have mentioned that there's a role of responsibility that comes to leadership. Why do you think that is?
I mean, part of it is what I've seen. I work primarily with leaders, but the other part of it is what I've experienced myself as a young man growing up, aspiring to leadership. You have an idea of what it is. And probably, if you're honest with yourself, it has to do with control, or prestige or
power, wealth, fame.
And those things are so empty. Once you get them, they're far emptier than you would think. And if you are aspiring to be a good leader, what you realize very quickly is that leadership is hard. Leadership is a burden. Leadership is a heavy crown, and ultimately a responsibility to many others. So there's this concept from the Gospels, where, to paraphrase, Jesus essentially says, He who seeks to be the greatest will be slave of all. And if you're aspiring to be a good leader, you quickly discover that how deeply true that is. It's heavy, it's hard, and that doesn't mean it can't be good.
Yes.
And if you are a good leader, like that's what you've been. That's what all the hardship was for. That's what you were being built up for, so you can help. You
Yeah.
can do something about the world around you and help the people you care about. But it is far less about all the things you get. And once you get there, you realize how much it's actually about how much you're going to serve and give.
And that alone has a reward of itself, right? To serve and to give. Reading the book, and you've mentioned the Gospels, you mentioned Jesus. Do you think Scripture and Christianity, does that have a influence on the book itself?
Absolutely. I mean, the story of redemption is really my story. That's the story I'm offering the world, and to remember the story of redemption. I've been through many ups and downs and dealt with a lot of hardship and seen a lot of hardship around me as well. And through that, I've also seen the other side. There is light through the crack in everything, as Leonard Cohen said. And so part of the burden of leadership today in this moment, where, 15 years ago, who could have guessed that the world would be this different and would be this chaotic? Technological change, geopolitical change, cultural change, and generational change in the workforce. Things are so different. Nobody could have guessed. I never could have guessed. Certainly, I don't want to have to deal with this. But if you are a leader today and you're going to take responsibility for your community, your people, your company or your department, it's far more than just having good ideas and working hard. You need character. And so where does that come from?
Yeah.
What orients you? There are far smarter, deeper thinkers and far more ancient things we can look to guide us in building our character for this moment. One of those are scriptures. And so absolutely, that's part of the influence of some of the content. It's obviously a business book.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's part of where character comes from, and it's on every page.
Yeah, and I see it, and I've read it. It's powerful. It's impactful. And the reason why I say that is because as I'm reading it, it felt very much like almost like a devotional per se, right? You know how devotional you read like a page or a passage per day. Was that the intention?
Yeah, absolutely. It was a business devotional.
Okay.
Intended to help challenge and build character in leaders so they can go and take responsibility and lead for the moment. And so if you talk to any leader today in a business, for instance, one of the most common gripes is the workforce. And portions of the workforce, not everybody, but portions of the workforce don't want to work or have different values or are bringing issues into the workplace that never had a place, like mental health or other things. And leaders are struggling to know how to navigate it and where to start. And so this is an attempt at saying, we got this. We can do this, but we have to start in the right place. If you're going to help other people through this moment and help a generation who's grown up watching a paradigm change, if not crumble, in their culture and in America at least, if you're going to help them and you're going to lead them and together you're going to build something great, they need leadership in places like character. How do I grow up? How do I build character? How do I become the best version of myself in this workplace? So we're starting at the beginning rather than just giving some hot tips and tricks on the latest leadership trend. It's like, no, there's something deeper going on here. And that's the purpose of the book. And so to do that, you can't just, there's not just a chapter you can read, it'll change everything. It's a practice. It's a commitment to a set of principles. And so a devotional, if it's a daily intention, you start your day, you read something that orients you to something higher and better, and you bring that with you into work. So that's the heart and the intent of the Rebuilders.
I will say that there were pages that I've read maybe about a month ago or so, and then I reread it again like this past morning. Totally different perspectives on certain things. I'm like, okay, like you learned something new by rereading it. And I thought that was really, really profound. And I'm not sure if that was something you've planned for or it just kind of happened.
No specific intention behind that, except to say I've had my own very strange meta experience. So now, 6 months to a year after I've written this thing, I've picked it up here and there as I'm dealing with my own challenges and building my own business, etc. And I've read things that I wrote.
Yeah.
And it's like I have to take my own medicine. Yeah. But it's past me is challenging current me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that is the intent. There are axioms of life and truths around character that are applicable to business.
Yeah.
That are intended to be evergreen. It wasn't written to have some cool case study from OpenAI from a year ago.
Yeah.
That'll be irrelevant in a year. It's intended to be something that lasts. Just like we're all trying to we should be building something that lasts.
Yes.
And so the book was just built that way as well.
This episode is brought to you by McKee Wallwork, an Albuquerque-based consulting firm that helps companies find growth worth fighting for. Their president, Jonathan David Lewis, just released a new book called The Rebuilders, a 6-month daily readers for leaders navigating difficult moments. You can find it at McKeeWallwork.com.
It's evident, dude. It's evident. I absolutely love it. But it does have a heavy toll when I read it, because it's like, okay, like I said, there's a crack in the wall. You don't gloss over it. It's just like you acknowledge it. It's there. What are we going to do about it? How are we going to move forward? Right. And that's always the theme of it. Mm-hmm. If you were to go by that analogy, and you said there's a light. What is that light? Where's that light coming from? If you're able to, if that's something you thought about.
Yeah. A million examples. So first start with the crack. Where's the crack in your company? Mm-hmm. So maybe it's softening sales. Maybe you have an unexpected departure of a leader or an owner. So first, what's the problem? Where's the crack? And then in that, if you're willing to look, most people aren't. If you're willing to look, there's a gift. There's a lesson. There's a light through that crack. And usually it'll expose something maybe you need to learn. And if you open yourself to that, if you answer that call, if you look for it, you are accepting an adventure, and you can grow as a person. You can become a better leader than you were before, but only if you look at it. So the book, you've mentioned a couple of times, it's heavy. The book isn't for all times. You're not going to read this on your wedding day, like go have fun, enjoy life.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, some could.
Yeah. If you want to have a downer in the morning, no, like you're either go be joyful, enjoy life, laugh with your friends, cry with your friends. But there are times when leaders go through a wilderness, and it's very frequent. And it's as an organization, it tends to be every 3 to 5 years, sometimes 7 years, depending on your industry. You're going to go through a wilderness. You might be in one now. When you're in the wilderness, you need this book. If everything's fine, you're in the promised land. There's lots of bounty and
milk and honey.
Yeah. Maybe you don't need it right now, but it's on your shelf and it's waiting for when you need it. And when you're in that wilderness, you don't need someone to come just pat you on the back and say, "Oh, everything's fine." You need someone to help you see yourself clearly so you can become more. And that's the intention.
That's a good intention. I love it. As I said earlier, that's exactly what I found while reading this book, and I really enjoyed it. The crack in the wall. Going back to the crack in the wall. And you said that if the company recognizes and acknowledges that, what happens if a company chooses not to acknowledge that? Or if someone's reading this, and going back to that one analogy that you stated, no easy or easy no. What if someone wants that easy no? What if they don't want to go through all the work? What then?
Not many people do want it, right? I think most of us don't want it. Some of us choose to, and that's up to each of us. And there are things I choose every day, and there's things I don't. There's things I avoid every day. In business, I've seen it many times. If you don't notice the crack and decide to learn from it so you can grow as a leader, then you get stuck, and it leads to, at best, stasis, at worst, decline and the death of your company. So I've worked with incredible founders of very, very well-known brands. One in particular is coming to mind, hired us because they invented an entire category, were famous for it, but their own growth had stalled and all these competitors were growing instead of them. And so we stepped in and we helped them reorient, remember who they are, tell a modern story, and even built a turnaround plan, hired a internal COO to help them execute. And the founder, after all this, so we had the answers. The founder, about after 8 or 9 months, killed the whole operation. No, stopped the turnaround out of pride.
Wow.
And about a year later, they filed bankruptcy.
Wow.
Didn't even try.
Mm-hmm.
That's an extreme example of someone who is unwilling to look at the crack.
Yeah.
Because this is identity. These are identity issues. This is why we're a brand strategy firm. Who are you? And if you're, some of us have become things we're not exactly proud of, or aren't willing to admit maybe where we've been wrong and have become something we didn't intend to be. That's no fun. And that's a hard thing to go through. So you get stuck. And that's an extreme example. There are many other examples where a lot of companies get stuck at a certain growth level. They might hit a certain revenue or number of employees, and they get stuck there for decades, years. And they try things, they don't understand why is nothing happening. They start to blame external circumstances. Much of the time it's them.
Without acknowledging the crack.
Exactly. They're stuck. They don't realize they have more to learn. There's a lot of pride involved. And if you're willing, I mean, goodness, if you're, many of us don't realize how much we're capable of and how much it doesn't have to do with external circumstance. That's part of it. But
yeah,
especially in America, a lot of it's not external circumstance. It's actually our own mindset, our own set of beliefs that are in the way of us achieving what we think we want to achieve.
This book is written with a 7-day format in mind. So you said like what, 24 weeks, right?
24 work weeks with a weekend. Yep.
With the weekend. The weekend aspect. There's a page for the weekend. Why?
Yeah. So there's a daily entry for every day of the week, Monday through Friday. And then of course, Saturday and Sunday, there is intentionally a blank space with a quote that simply says rest. And I think this is another one of those opportunities for a modern leader, someone who is trying to remember where they come from, rebuild a healthier relationship with work. Well, there used to be a culture, and it's very ancient, and there used to be a culture in America where people respected one of the days of the weekend and would rest. And this is something people figured out a long time ago. You're actually more productive. You can make more money. You can get farther faster if you choose to rest. So the intention here, it's not overt, but the intention of the book is to remind the modern leader that it's not, their success is not entirely dependent on themselves and their own effort and strength and mind. There's a lot more going on. And if they're willing to take a day and actually stop working, maybe the rest of the week can be more productive. And in that, there is a challenge. There's a lot of thinking around this coming out right now. I think Andy Crouch is probably my favorite, but there's others. There's a difference between leisure and rest. That's something Andy Crouch talks about. I think we're very good at leisure. Mm-hmm. We know how to turn on Netflix and eat some Cheetos or play a video game or go to a movie or even a trip, a vacation. You come back more tired. That's leisure. That's an experience. And often other people are required to work to help you leisure. Mm-hmm. What is rest? I'm not sure the modern business leader, and certainly myself, really understands what rest is. And it's an old idea.
Resting is always a very tricky thing too, because it brings me back to that phrase, if you don't give yourself rest, your body will tell you to when it's time to rest. And I've been in that situation far too many times where I'm going nonstop day after day after day. And then finally I just hit a wall and I'm just like, okay, I got to rest. I got to stop working mentally, physically, emotionally. And it's also this paradigm of like realizing that I'm not a robot.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a machine, you know. And
You're not a robot, you're not a machine, and we have been trying to race the machines for a long time and beat them and be faster than them.
yeah.
Clearly that's impossible and exhausting. So we're in a moment, even with emerging technologies like AI, where there are a lot of people asking, what does it even mean to be human?
Mm,
And I think that's a good question. I think your workforce is asking that in so many ways.
yeah.
What does it mean? Have we forgotten? And even the rhythm of life, requires rest. And it sounds really obvious, but like everyone's going to sleep tonight.
Yeah. Yeah.
You will die if you don't. There is a beginning and an end. There is light and darkness. There is a time to be productive. There's a time to not be productive. And in the workplace, we've really mixed that up and we've forgotten, and we've put other things in the highest place in our lives, like money or productivity or success or fame.
Mm-hmm.
And you can put that in the highest place, and you will get the fruit of that. But it's not. It's usually not what people think it is. So this book, even the rhythm of the book, is intended to reestablish a new relationship, a healthier relationship with work itself.
Is there a reason why the days for the rest days pages are black as opposed to the work days that are white?
Absolutely, yeah. They're the illustrator and designer Shay Holton, a team member of mine, someone who's very talented. And the rest of our creative team who helped design it thought through almost every detail. So the texture of the pages, the as you noted, the book cover, the pages themselves. So there's light, there's day, which is the work week. Get to work, get outside. There's the sun's out, and then there's a time for rest. And that the intention of those pages being black is subtly, unconsciously, just nighttime and rest. And you feel it when you get there. There's a lot of empty space, and it's surprising, and it's not meant to hit anybody over the head, but it is meant to subtly remind business leaders you're not going to be able to lead like you want to if you don't respect this part of work, which is the rest itself. There's some other Easter eggs in there. Every week the hammer on the bottom right starts high, and it, you can almost flip it like a flip book, and the hammer goes down and you're working, among some other things. So it was built intentionally for people of intention.
What is the purpose of that? The hammer going?
It's work. It's meant to symbolize the work itself, and then there's an illustration at the beginning of each.
Yes.
That's very beautifully illustrated by Shaylin Holt, and the intent there is they're all different forms of tools.
Okay. I was gonna say weapons, but tools.
Yeah, they're tools. They could be weapons, I guess. Depends on what you're using them for.
Yeah.
But you'll notice there's vines growing on some of them.
Yeah.
And sort of alluding to, we've maybe forgotten the purpose of these tools, or forgotten the purpose of the work the tools are equipping for us. So all of it's intended to really focus the reader on the words, but everything there is pointing towards something higher.
I love it when a book has in-depth details, because it shows that they really do care about what they're putting into the text, and they really shows what they're really advertising or broadcasting to the reader, to their audience, and to people who engage and interact with the medium itself.
Even Tiana Gibbs, who was the editor on the book, the flow of the entire book is intended to go from dark to light. So there's heavier content at the beginning, more challenging, and it gets lighter as you go. Also, each week, the first couple of days begin with heavier, more challenging content, and it gets lighter and more optimistic as the week goes. So again, you asked me earlier, the whole thing is about redemption and light. But to get there, especially in a time like ours, where we're living through some incredible change and hardship, you don't get to the light. You don't get to the good part without going through the hard part.
Yes.
That's cheating. And it doesn't last. And so there is light, and we do have a positive view on the world. We do have an optimistic view of the future, but not without the growth required to get there, the growth in leadership character required to get there.
All right. So 7-day reading entry format. Like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then like a weekend. What if someone doesn't have that kind of work lifestyle?
Mm-hmm.
What if they work like for 2 days and they rest for 2 days and then they work for another 2 days? Could that still apply to them?
Absolutely. So there is a general pattern to work that is ancient and works. And it's probably the healthiest version, but there are many ways to work. There's probably no right or wrong rhythm. And the intention of the pattern is to simply encourage the reader to be intentional with their work time and be intentional with their rest. So whether it's exactly that format or not, who am I to judge? But I do think if you want the healthiest relationship with work, I do think there is something to learn from the pattern of 6 days of work and 1 day of rest.
Yeah. Okay. The other thing there, throughout the whole book, you focused on the crack in the wall and what we can learn from that and how we can grow from that. And to the very end, you mentioned healthy tension. What is healthy tension?
Healthy tension is something I avoid personally. I don't love tension. Healthy tension is what an engineer builds into a bridge. Unhealthy tension is a family member, unhealthily screaming at a loved one or something, right?
Yeah.
Ruining a holiday. There's unhealthy tension. There's also healthy tension, which is noticing a crack, an area of improvement in an employee, and instead of avoiding it, Patrick Lencioni calls it kind truth, entering into that danger with kind truth, pointing it out as a leader, but then giving them a path towards how they can grow and improve. Healthy tension is when you're, as a leader, if your company's in a moment of transition or change, it's not avoiding it or blaming others. Healthy tension is inviting people into that conversation that you trust and having a hard conversation. The analogy is there are forms of good tension, and none of us are going to grow unless we invite those forms of healthy tension into our lives, which is usually through relationship.
Impactful and powerful. I love it. Okay, well, that's the book. That's The Rebuilders, right? And then where can we find this book?
So you can buy the exclusive printed version here on McKeeWallwork.com. You can Google Jonathan David Lewis and McKee Wallwork. You'll find it there. The audiobook is coming out in just 6 weeks. So if you're listening to this in or after September, you can get the audiobook on Amazon.com.
Right on. Okay, fantastic. Thank you, Jonathan. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Yettilt Media is a marketing through podcast platform that utilizes conversations to promote opportunity exposure. If you have a business, product, or an idea that you wish to share, contact us at www.whatislife.blog or message us through a social media platform to be a guest on our show.